Sir, we got a call about suspicious activity in this section. You match the description. Let me see your ID.
I haven't done anything, man. I'm just shopping. I don't have to show you my ID.
You refuse to cooperate. You're giving me probable cause. Do you want to get arrested today?
I'm not causing trouble. I'm not stealing. I'm holding a jacket I plan to buy.
Last chance. ID now or we...
This FBI agent made one simple mistake. He decided to shop while black. Elijah Wright was browsing jackets at Westfield Mall on a quiet Tuesday afternoon when Officer Kyle Bennett decided he looked suspicious. No crime, no complaint, just existing. Before we continue, let me take this opportunity to thank you so much for supporting our channel. Just choosing to watch our video means a lot to us. Before we go any further, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this is your first time here. Elijah, 30 years old, stood in the men's section of a department store, comparing two bomber jackets. He wore jeans, a fitted sweater, and sneakers. Nothing flashy, nothing threatening, just a man shopping on his day off. Bennett spotted him from across the store floor. The officer, 35, white, with a buzz cut and a permanent scowl, had been patrolling the mall for 3 years. He had a reputation. Staff whispered about it. Security knew. Management had received complaints before, but nothing ever stuck. Bennett approached with purpose, his hand already resting on his belt. "Excuse me, sir. I need to see some ID." Elijah looked up, initially confused. He glanced around, thinking Bennett was addressing someone else, but no, the officer was staring directly at him. "I'm sorry, what's the issue?" Elijah asked calmly. "Don't play games with me. ID, now." Elijah set down the jacket slowly. His voice remained steady. "Officer Bennett, I'm just shopping. What's this about?" Bennett stepped closer, invading his space. "We've had reports of suspicious activity. You match a description." "What description?" "Don't get smart with me." Elijah took a breath. He'd been through this before, not often, but enough to know the script. "Officer Bennett," he said, reading the nameplate, "I'm happy to cooperate, but I need to understand what I'm being accused of. What suspicious activity? What description?" Bennett's jaw tightened. "You're loitering, acting nervous, looking around like you're casing the place." "I'm shopping. That's not what it looks like to me." A small crowd was forming now, other shoppers slowing down, pretending to browse while watching. The store's CCTV camera above them blinked red, recording everything. Elijah kept his hands visible, his voice even. "I have a right to know why I'm being detained. Am I being detained?" "You're being questioned." "Then I'm free to leave?" Bennett's face flushed. "You're not going anywhere until I say so." "That's called detention, officer, and without reasonable suspicion of a crime, you can't legally detain me." The words hit Bennett like a challenge. His authority was being questioned, and worse, by someone who knew the law better than he did. "You want to talk about legal? How about I arrest you for obstruction?" Elijah didn't flinch. "Obstruction requires that I'm interfering with your duties. I'm standing here answering your questions. There's no obstruction." Bennett's hand moved to his cuffs. "Turn around." "On what charge?" "Resisting arrest." "You haven't arrested me yet. You can't resist something that hasn't happened." By now, 3 other shoppers had their phones out. A store employee had called the manager. Another security guard approached, looking uncertain. Bennett grabbed Elijah's arm. "I said, turn around." Elijah didn't resist physically, but his voice cut through clearly. "Officer Bennett, I'm complying under protest. I am not resisting. I'm stating for the record and for these witnesses that this is an unlawful detention. I'm also informing you that I'm a federal agent with the FBI." Bennett laughed, a harsh, disbelieving sound. "Sure you are, and I'm the president." "My credentials are in my wallet, inside pocket." "Right, so you can pull a weapon." "My weapon is also in there, properly licensed and registered. I'm telling you this for everyone's safety." The words hung in the air. Several onlookers gasped. The security guard stopped in his tracks. Bennett's expression shifted, not to belief, but to deeper suspicion. "You're carrying a weapon in a public mall?" "I'm a federal law enforcement officer. I'm authorized to carry nationwide." "Let me see this supposed ID." "You're welcome to retrieve it yourself, slowly, right inside pocket of my jacket." Bennett hesitated. For a split second, doubt flickered across his face, but pride and something darker, something that had been festering in him for years, pushed him forward. He reached into Elijah's jacket roughly, pulled out a leather wallet and flipped it open. FBI credentials, federal badge, official photo ID. The security guard saw it. 2 shoppers saw it. The CCTV camera captured the exact moment Bennett's face changed. But instead of apologizing, instead of stepping back, Bennett made the worst decision of his career. These could be fake.
Bennett held the credentials like they burned his hands. Elijah watched him carefully. "Officer, those are real. You can call the FBI field office to verify. The number's on the card." "I'll verify what I want to verify." Bennett's voice had an edge now, defensive, cornered. Plenty of people carry fake badges. The mall security guard, an older man named Torres, stepped forward cautiously. "Officer Bennett, maybe we should—" "Stay out of this, Torres." "I'm just saying, if he's really FBI." "I said stay out of it." Elijah remained calm, though his patience was thinning. "This is being recorded, by the store, by these citizens, by that camera right above us. You're making a choice right now, officer." Bennett pocketed the credentials, taking federal property without authorization, another violation to add to the growing list. "You're under arrest for impersonating a federal officer." The absurdity of it landed hard. Several onlookers protested audibly. A woman shouted, "Are you serious right now?" Elijah's voice stayed level. "That's a federal crime you're accusing me of. You understand the implications. Turn around and put your hands behind your back." "I'm complying, but I need you to understand something." Elijah turned slowly, presenting his back. "My supervisor's name is Assistant Director Monica Reeves. The Seattle field office number is 206-622-0460. I'm strongly advising you to make that call before this goes any further." Bennett snapped the cuffs on, tighter than necessary. "You can make your phone call at the station. This isn't about me making a call. This is about you making one, right now." But Bennett was past listening. 3 years of unchecked authority, a dozen complaints that went nowhere, and a deep-seated resentment he'd never confronted had brought him to this moment. He saw what he wanted to see. Not an FBI agent, but someone he could control. He radioed for backup. "This is Bennett at Westfield. Need transport for 1 suspect. Federal impersonation and obstruction." Torres looked sick. "Officer, please, just make the call he's asking for." "I don't take advice from mall security." 2 more officers arrived within minutes, Officers Chen and Rodriguez. They saw Elijah in cuffs and immediately sensed something was off. Chen approached Bennett quietly. "What's the situation?" Suspect was acting suspicious, refused to cooperate, claims to be FBI. Rodriguez glanced at Elijah, then at the phone's recording. "Claims to be FBI? Did you verify?" "Credentials look fake." "Did you call it in?" Bennett's silence was answer enough. Chen pulled him aside. "Kyle, if there's even a chance—" "There's no chance. Look at him. You really think the Bureau would send someone like that undercover to a mall?" The words came out before Bennett could stop them. Chen's expression hardened. Rodriguez took a step back. Elijah heard every word. So did the crowd. So did the cameras. "Officer Chen," Elijah said calmly, "I'm Special Agent Elijah Wright, FBI, badge number 47291. I was off duty shopping. Officer Bennett detained me without cause, refused to verify my credentials, and is now making this significantly worse. I'm asking you, as a fellow law enforcement officer, to make the call." Chen looked at Bennett. "Give me the credentials." "I've got this under control." "Kyle, give me the credentials." Reluctantly, Bennett handed the wallet. Chen examined it carefully. The hologram, the seal, the photo. His face went pale. "These look real." "They're not." "I'm calling it in." Chen pulled out his phone. Bennett grabbed his wrist. "Don't. Let go of me." The 2 officers stood frozen, a standoff within a standoff. Rodriguez moved between them, hands raised. "Everyone needs to calm down. Chen, make the call. Kyle, step back." Bennett finally released Chen's wrist, but his expression
got a
had
call
shifted
about
into
suspicious
something
activity in this
desperate.
section. You matched
He
the
knew what
description.
was
Let me see
coming.
your ID.
I haven't done
He'd known
anything,
it from
man.
the
I'm just
moment he
shopping.
saw
I don't
those
have to show you my
credentials.
ID.
But
You refuse to
admitting it
cooperate.
meant
You're gonna be
admitting
probable
everything
cause.
else.
You want to get
The
arrested today?
I'm not
profiling,
causing
the
trouble.
abuse
I'm
of
not stealing. I'm
power,
holding a
the
jacket up
hatred
in the
he'd been
bag.
carrying
Last
like a
chance.
badge of
ID now,
honor.
or we-
Chen dialed. The crowd waited in tense silence. Yes, this is Officer David Chen, Seattle PD, badge 2845. I need to verify FBI credentials for a Special Agent Elijah Wright, badge 47291. Pause. Yes, I'll hold. Elijah stood quietly, hands cuffed behind him, while his entire career hung on a phone call that should never have been necessary. 30 seconds passed, then a minute. Chen's expression changed. Yes, okay, understood. Is there... Yes, he's here. He's in custody. No, I didn't. It was another officer. Yes, I understand. He hung up. The silence stretched. He's legitimate, Chen said quietly. That was his supervisor. She's on her way. Then it didn't move. His face had gone from red to ashen. Torres shook his head slowly. Rodriguez started recording on his body camera, belatedly, but recording nonetheless. Get these cuffs off him, Chen ordered. Bennett didn't move. Kyle, now. Slowly, mechanically, Bennett removed the handcuffs. Elijah rubbed his wrists, red marks already forming. My credentials? Elijah said, extending his hand. Bennett handed them like he was surrendering a weapon. Officers, Elijah said, addressing Chen and Rodriguez, I appreciate your intervention. Officer Bennett, you violated multiple protocols and civil rights statutes. This isn't over. Bennett finally found his voice. You should have just shown me your badge from the start. The deflection was stunning. Even Chen winced. Elijah looked at him with something close to pity. You chose not to believe me. That's not on me. That's on you.
Assistant Director Monica Reeves arrived 20 minutes later with 2 federal agents. She was a woman in her 50s, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense. She took one look at Elijah, then at the 3 officers, and her jaw set like stone. Agent Wright, are you injured? No, ma'am, just detained unlawfully for approximately 40 minutes. She turned to the officers. Who's responsible? Chen pointed to Bennett without hesitation. Officer Kyle Bennett, ma'am. Reeves approached Bennett slowly. You arrested a federal agent? Bennett tried to stand straighter. I had reasonable suspicion. Of what? Suspicious behavior. Loitering. He was shopping. I didn't know that. He told you he was FBI. He directed you to his credentials. He gave you a phone number to verify. What part of that process confused you, officer? Bennett had no answer. Reeves continued. Do you know what happens when a local officer arrests a federal agent without cause? Do you understand the legal nightmare you've just created for yourself and your department? Torres, still standing nearby, spoke up. Ma'am, if it helps, we have everything on video. The store's security system captured the entire interaction. Reeves' eyebrows rose. Show me. They moved to the security office, a small room behind the customer service desk. The manager, a nervous man named Patel, queued up the footage. Everyone watched in silence. The video showed everything. Elijah browsing peacefully, Bennett approaching aggressively, the conversation, the escalation, the moment Bennett saw the FBI credentials and called them fake. His whispered comment to Chen, the one about someone like that, was barely audible on camera, but the body language told the story clearly enough. When it finished, Reeves turned to Bennett. Officer, you just committed several federal offenses on camera, civil rights violations, unlawful detention, false arrest, and that comment you made to Chen, that's going to be Exhibit A in establishing motive. Bennett's voice cracked. I was doing my job. Your job is to protect and serve, not to profile and persecute. I wasn't. Save it for your lawyer. Reeves looked at Chen. I need copies of all footage, all reports, and a full statement from every officer present. This is now a federal investigation. Chen nodded quickly. Yes, ma'am. We'll cooperate fully. Rodriguez stepped forward. For the record, ma'am, Officer Chen and I attempted to de-escalate. We weren't involved in the initial detention. Noted. You'll still need to provide statements. Reeves turned back to Elijah.
Agent Wright, I'm placing you on administrative leave pending a full review, standard protocol for any incident involving an agent. You'll have full support from the Bureau. Are you clear on that? Yes, ma'am. Good. Get checked out by a doctor. Document everything. I want photos of those wrist marks. She faced Bennett one final time. You're going to wish you'd made that phone call. The mall management asked everyone to vacate the security office. Word had spread throughout the shopping center. A crowd had gathered near the store entrance, some filming, some just watching the spectacle unfold. Patel approached Reeves nervously. We're prepared to release all footage to the FBI. We've also been documenting complaints about Officer Bennett for months. Our staff has raised concerns about his conduct during mall patrols. Send everything to this email. Reeves handed him a card. Every complaint, every incident report, every piece of documentation you have. Will do. Outside, Bennett stood alone while Chen and Rodriguez gave their statements to Reeves' agents. He looked smaller now, diminished. The authority he'd wielded so carelessly had evaporated. A reporter had somehow gotten wind of the situation, a young woman with a camera crew. She approached the scene cautiously. Excuse me, is it true that an FBI agent was wrongfully arrested here today? Reeves held up a hand. No comment at this time. There will be an official statement from the Bureau within 24 hours. But phones had already uploaded videos to social media. Within an hour, hashtags were trending. Hashtag Westfield Mall. Hashtag racial profiling. Hashtag FBI agent. The story was spreading faster than anyone could contain it. Elijah sat in Reeves' car, finally allowing himself to process what had happened. His hands were still shaking slightly, not from fear, but from the adrenaline finally releasing. You handled that well, Reeves said, sliding into the driver's seat. Most people would have lost their composure. I've had practice. That shouldn't be necessary. No, it shouldn't. They sat in silence for a moment. This is going to get big. Federal agent, racial profiling, everything on camera. The media will run with it. Are you prepared for that? Elijah nodded slowly. If it means officers like Bennett face consequences, yes, I'm prepared. He'll likely be charged federally. The U.S. Attorney's Office will want this case. Good. One more thing. That comment he made about someone like that. Did you hear it? I heard it. It's on the recording, clear as day. His defense will try to explain it away, but we both know what he meant. Elijah looked out the window at the mall, ordinary people going about their ordinary day, unaware that something extraordinary and terrible had just occurred in aisle 7 of a department store. He showed me exactly who he was. I just gave him the space to do it on camera. Do you think most people understand how often moments like this happen without cameras, without witnesses, without someone who knows their rights well enough to protect themselves?
The FBI launched a formal investigation within 48 hours. What they found was worse than anyone expected. Bennett's personnel file revealed a pattern spanning 3 years, 17 formal complaints, 23 incident reports from mall security, dozens of stops involving Black and Latino shoppers, 0 involving white suspects. The numbers told a story Bennett couldn't talk his way out of. Seattle PD placed him on unpaid leave immediately. The police union issued a statement of support that lasted exactly 1 day until the full footage went public. Then they went silent. The video spread everywhere. News networks picked it up. It played on loop. Bennett's aggression, Elijah's calm responses, that damning moment when he called the credentials fake despite seeing them clearly. Civil rights organizations called for prosecution. Community leaders organized protests outside the precinct, and the U.S. Attorney's Office moved faster than anyone anticipated. Federal charges were filed within 2 weeks. Deprivation of rights under color of law, false arrest, filing a false police report. Each charge carried serious prison time. The city scrambled to contain the damage. The police chief held a press conference, promising reforms and accountability. The mayor announced an independent review of the entire department's practices. But the public wasn't satisfied with promises. They wanted action. Elijah's attorney, a fierce civil rights lawyer named Carmen Osei, filed a lawsuit against Bennett, the Seattle Police Department, and the city itself.
$50,000 in damages, a modest amount deliberately chosen. This wasn't about money. "We're not seeking millions," Osei told reporters. "We're seeking accountability. We're seeking acknowledgement that what happened to Agent Wright was wrong, illegal, and part of a larger pattern." The city's legal team knew they couldn't win. The evidence was overwhelming. They settled within a month, $50,000 and a public apology from the mayor himself. Bennett hired a defense attorney, a man named Garrett, who specialized in defending police officers. His strategy became clear during the preliminary hearing. "My client made an error in judgment," Garrett argued, "but it was not motivated by racial animus. Officer Bennett has served honorably for over a decade. One mistake shouldn't define his entire career." The prosecutor, Assistant U.S. Attorney James Nakamura, stood up with a thick folder. "Your Honor, the government has documentation of 17 similar incidents involving Officer Bennett. In every single case, the detained individual was a person of color. In every single case, no charges were ultimately filed. This is not one mistake. This is a pattern of civil rights violations spanning years." He placed the folder on the table. "We also have testimony from 4 fellow officers who witnessed Bennett make racially disparaging comments. We have testimony from mall employees who reported his targeting of minority shoppers. And we have his own recorded words, 'someone like that,' captured clearly on video." The judge, a black woman named Teresa Hamilton, reviewed the evidence carefully. "Mr. Garrett, does your client wish to enter a plea?" Bennett stood. He looked older now, worn down. "Not guilty, Your Honor." "Very well. Trial is set for 3 months from today." Those 3 months were brutal for Bennett. His wife filed for divorce, his children stopped speaking to him, former colleagues avoided him in public. The thin blue line that usually protected officers like him had disappeared. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Nakamura presented the case methodically. The mall footage played for the jury, all 40 minutes of it. Expert witnesses testified about racial profiling patterns. The FBI's internal investigation was entered into evidence. Officers Chen and Rodriguez testified about Bennett's comments and behavior. Then Elijah took the stand. He described the incident calmly, factually. He didn't exaggerate or embellish. He simply told the truth. "Did you feel threatened?" asked Nakamura. "Yes, I felt threatened because I knew I had done nothing wrong, yet I was being treated as a criminal. I knew my credentials were legitimate, yet they were being dismissed. And I knew that if I resisted even slightly, if I showed any emotion, it could be used to justify further violence against me." "Why did you remain so calm?" asked Nakamura. "Because I've been trained to de-escalate situations, and because I knew the only way this would end without me being hurt or worse was to let Officer Bennett reveal exactly who he was on camera." Garrett's cross-examination tried to paint Elijah as uncooperative, but the footage contradicted every claim. The jury watched Elijah's patience, his clear communication, his repeated attempts to resolve the situation peacefully. Bennett testified in his defense. It went poorly. "Why didn't you verify Elijah's credentials?" Nakamura asked during cross-examination. "I believed they were fraudulent." "Based on what evidence?" "I just had a feeling." A feeling? Did that feeling have anything to do with Elijah's race? No. Yet, in 17 documented incidents over 3 years, you've only stopped people of color, never once a white suspect. How do you explain that pattern? I don't know. You don't know, or you don't want to say. Garrett objected, but the damage was done. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They returned with guilty verdicts on all counts. Judge Hamilton scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. The courtroom was packed. Reporters filled the back rows. Community members who'd followed the case held silent vigil. Elijah sat in the front with Carmen Osei, his expression unreadable. Bennett stood before the judge in a suit that hung loose on his frame. He'd lost weight. The confidence that once defined him had vanished entirely. Hamilton reviewed her notes, then looked up. "Mr. Bennett, you had a duty to protect the citizens of Seattle. Instead, you weaponized your authority against them.
You targeted people based on the color of their skin, and when confronted with evidence of your wrongdoing, you doubled down rather than admit your mistake. She paused, letting the words settle. This court has reviewed extensive evidence of a pattern of behavior spanning years, 17 documented incidents, countless others that likely went unreported because victims didn't know their rights or feared retaliation. You created an atmosphere of fear and injustice in the very community you swore to serve. Bennett's attorney stood. Your Honor, my client has expressed remorse. He's lost his career, his family, his reputation. He's already paid a severe price. Has he? Hamilton's voice was sharp. Has he paid the price that Agent Wright paid for simply shopping while black? Has he paid the price of every person he harassed, humiliated, and violated over the years? Consequences for one's actions are not punishment, they're accountability. She turned back to Bennett. Do you have anything to say before I impose sentence? Bennett cleared his throat. His voice was barely audible. I'm sorry. I made mistakes. I let my judgment get clouded. I never meant to hurt anyone. Hamilton waited. Is that all? I thought I was doing my job. Your job was not to profile innocent citizens. Your job was not to ignore clear evidence because it didn't fit your prejudices. Your job was not to abuse the power entrusted to you. She folded her hands. Mr. Bennett, on the charges of deprivation of rights under color of law, false arrest, and filing false reports, I sentence you to 20 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole for the first 10 years. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Bennett's knees buckled slightly. His attorney gripped his arm to steady him. 20 years may seem harsh to some, but this court must send a clear message. When those sworn to uphold the law instead use it as a weapon, the punishment must reflect the severity of that betrayal. She struck her gavel. This court is adjourned. Bennett was led away in handcuffs, the same handcuffs he'd placed on Elijah months earlier. The symmetry wasn't lost on anyone. Outside the courthouse, Elijah stood before a cluster of microphones. Carmen stood beside him, along with Monica Reeves. Today, justice was served, but let me be clear, this outcome is rare. Most incidents like mine don't end with accountability. Most victims don't have FBI credentials or knowledge of the law. Most interactions aren't captured on video.
Sir, we got a call about
He
suspicious
looked
activity
directly
in
into
this
the
section. You match
cameras.
description. Let me see your
Officer
ID.
Bennett's sentence isn't just about what he did to me. It's about every person he targeted, every family he terrorized, every moment of fear he created. 20 years feels like justice for them. A reporter called out, "Do you feel vindicated?" Vindicated? No. Relieved? Yes. But vindication would mean this never happened in the first place. Vindication would mean officers like Bennett were stopped before they could abuse their power for years. What do you want people to take away from this? Elijah considered the question carefully. Know your rights, record everything, speak up, and to law enforcement officers watching this, your badge is a responsibility, not a shield. The moment you use it to harm instead of protect, you betray everything that badge is supposed to represent. The city issued a formal apology that afternoon, along with the $50,000 settlement. The mayor announced mandatory bias training for all officers and new accountability measures for complaints. Some called it too little, too late. Others saw it as progress. Elijah returned to work a month later. His colleagues treated him differently now, not with pity, but with a deeper respect. He'd stood firm when it mattered most. He'd trusted the system even when the system failed him initially. But he also knew the truth. He'd been lucky. Lucky that cameras were recording. Lucky that witnesses stayed. Lucky that his supervisor acted swiftly. Lucky that he knew exactly what to say and how to say it. Thousands of others weren't so lucky. 6 months after the trial, Elijah received a letter. It was from a young black man named Trevor, 19 years old, from a neighborhood not far from that mall.
Dear Agent Wright, I saw what happened to you on the news. I've been stopped by police 7 times in the past 2 years, never charged with anything, always just fitting a description. I used to think that was just how it was, that I had to accept it. But watching you stand up for yourself, watching you refuse to let that officer define who you are, it changed something in me. I'm studying criminal justice now. I want to be the kind of officer you are. Thank you for showing me it's possible. Elijah pinned the letter to his office wall. Justice had been served in his case. Bennett would spend the next 20 years behind bars, his career destroyed, his legacy one of shame. The city had paid, both financially and in public trust. But the larger battle continued. One case, one officer, one sentence. They were drops in an ocean of injustice that still needed draining. Elijah knew his story would fade from headlines eventually, but if it inspired even one person to stand up, to know their rights, to demand better, then the 40 minutes he spent in handcuffs had meaning beyond his own experience. Do you think justice was truly served, or is 20 years not enough for the years of trauma Bennett inflicted on his community? And here's the real question. What would you have done in Elijah's position? Could you have stayed that calm, that composed, while being treated as a criminal for simply existing? If this story moved you, if it made you think, drop a comment below.